Welcome to another episode of the podcast. Dr. Thomas Hemingway here. Make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss out. Welcome to the Modern Medicine Movement Podcast. Dr. Thomas Hemingway here. Super pumped, super grateful. So excited to be here with you guys. Oh, it's a beautiful, beautiful day in Hawaii, Nei. And I can't wait to get into this one because this episode is for you. And especially for the Thrive community where all of these questions came from that we're going to talk about today. And there's stuff, I promise you guys, you're all going to want to know the answers to this. We're going to talk about snacking. We're going to talk about how to beat the sugar cravings. We're going to talk about mindset and accountability and how to just keep the ball moving down the field when we just feel like nothing's working. This and much more is coming your way in just a couple of seconds, guys. I'm so excited to share this with you. And I wanted to shout out to all you guys from the Thrive community that are just, gosh, it's amazing. We're having such just solid meetings and Zooms and trainings and learning a lot about you guys. You guys are just awesome. So thanks for being in the community. Thanks for giving me all of the material for this podcast, for the questions, for the desire to know more. That inquiring mind is why we are here. And if you want to join the Thrive community that can just take your health to the next level, check out the link below and you won't regret it, I promise. There's just not a price that you can put on your health. And I'm telling you, illness or not being well is so much more expensive and it's just not fun. It's not fun to be achy all day or to have issues that could be resolved through better health, better living, optimizing your health and your life. And this is what we work on in the Thrive community. You get a lot of one-on-one time with me and Zoom trainings, direct messaging, all kinds of fun stuff. Just being a part of a group with similar mindset, desires, goals, accountability. It's all there in the Thrive community. I hope you'll join us. Super low price going on right now. And it's just something that you wouldn't want to trade. Your health is everything. Trust me, as a physician, I have seen, I'm not going to say it all because we've never seen it all, but I've seen lots and lots of crazy stuff. And I've never once had somebody complain of having too good, too amazing of health, right? We all want good health, and that's not something we complain about. We complain about when stuff doesn't work right, when our T is low, or when we don't have the energy, or when we're craving all the junk food, or we just can't lose that stubborn 10 pounds, whatever it is. That's the stuff that we complain about, and you guys are the reason I do this. And I just wanted to shout out to Maddie3Mo. Hope I got that right. He gave an amazing review this past week. Says 5 stars, number 1, health education podcast. I've been listening to the podcast for the past few months. It made me feel so much more, made me gain so much more knowledge and feel knowledgeable about my body and overall health. I've learned more from Dr. Hemingway, his expertise paired with real medical research stemmed from many years of trying to find other sources of information. This podcast has helped me make some necessary and supportive changes in my diet and lifestyle. And it's a perfect mix of research and experience paired with tips, simple tips on how to make healthy living a reality. I recommend this for anybody who wants to know more about how to live a sustainably healthy life. It's easier than you think. Maddie3Moo, thank you. I echo that. It is easier than you think. So let's just get into it, guys. Let's get into it. Get into this week's topics, which I think are going to be applicable and super helpful to all of you, coming from members of our very own Thrive community. The first question was this one. I'm struggling to eliminate sugar. I feel like it's going to be bad when I do. And she kind of alludes to the hangry, right, that we feel when we miss our next snack or whatever it is. She continues on, when I don't get it, I'm worried about how it's going to make me feel. But I know how much better I'll feel without it. I'm trying to do it, but I know doing it all at once may not be the best idea, and slow is probably better than not at all. So you are absolutely right. Slow is better than not at all. Small, simple steps, the so-called tiny habits that BJ Fogg wrote the book about. In fact, we'll get into a little bit more of that mindset, the tiny habits, the kind of accountability, the goal making, keeping a little bit later in this podcast because somebody had a question about that. But you are absolutely right. Slow is better than not at all. I could not agree more. And what's cool is that it doesn't have to be that hard. Like we just heard in that review that was on Apple Podcasts. Please jump on over there if you haven't already. Drop me a review. It helps so much get the information out. Share this awesome, amazing, free health knowledge that can really make so many lives better. So jump on over there, click on the thing to the right, the little pencil coming off the top, write a review, and just let me know what you're learning, what you're loving, and all that good stuff. I read every one of these. I love to hear about it. And there's going to be a couple in the coming weeks that will get a free month in the Thrive community just for writing a review. So I hope that's you. You have great odds. I think you have like a 1 in 3 or 5 odds, 20 to 30% chance of getting a free month. So that's way better than Vegas. It's pretty awesome. So look out for that. But right now, let's dive into that topic a little bit. Like, how do we do this? How do we ditch the sugar? How do we ditch the carbs? How do we ditch that dependency? And it can be very simple. It's not challenging. It's not difficult. The first thing you can do is what you're already doing, is just kind of realize that there's an issue there. There's something that can be done. You literally have an issue and you want to solve it. There's something that can be done. And that's the first step, is just acknowledging that there's an issue, and then you're going to tackle it. I'm going to give you some simple tools. First things first, this dependence or even addiction, really, some of us have to sugar and highly refined processed carbs, flours, grains. It's super common. In fact, nearly 88% of us in the Western world have some degree of this, which means that we can't go more than a couple of hours, 2 or 3 hours, without kind of being like, I'm looking for that, granola bar. I'm looking for that little sweet treat in my purse or my bag or my backpack. I used to carry Snickers around with me, guys, because I had this quote unquote hypoglycemia, which was a real thing. But the reason I had it was because I was eating too many highly processed foods. I was dependent upon them. I didn't really know it at the time, but when I didn't have it, I was literally looking, searching, on the hunt, reaching for it. This was not only annoying, right? Because it was occupying brain waves, mental space, when I could have been doing something else more productive, or just enjoying myself more, not being sort of tied down by these cravings of needing to reach for that next thing. And so simple steps. The first one is try to start your day without the carbs, right? Power of protein. Start with something protein packed or healthy fats, like an avocado. Even some eggs has healthy fat in there and healthy cholesterol. They're natural. Start with real food in the morning that's protein packed. And if you're in too much of a rush to cook yourself up some real food, eggs or whatever it is that you want to eat, a protein bowl or something, just get a super clean, very simple ingredients protein powder that can top it off to get you going in the morning when you feel like you need to start your day. For me personally, I don't start my breakfast until a little bit later in the day, maybe sometime between 10 and midday and noon. And I'm doing fine with that. That's working for me, but it's been a process. I used to eat breakfast earlier, and I did it more out of habit than out of anything. I was just kind of, I was told my whole life, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and it may or may not be. It really depends on what you put in that breakfast. So start your day with the power of protein, some healthy fats, and it'll go a long ways, because it not only will satiate you and make you feel more full and sort of not craving the junk later, but you will also get more energy out of that, right? There's much more energy in some healthy fat than there is into this sort of empty carbs that we often eat that are in all the breakfast stuff, the breakfast cereals, the breads, the bagels, the scones, the croissants, the pancakes, waffles, all these kind of things that are packed with carbs. They don't really leave us satiated, satisfied, and feeling good. They leave us literally wanting more. So number one, start your day with the power of protein. Whatever time that break the fast meal occurs, whether it be, in the morning at 7 or 8 or 9 or whatever, or if it's at midday like mine is, start that with the power of protein and some healthy fat. Try to really not eat carbs that first meal. And if you do, eat them at the very end of the meal and make them come from real fruit, real vegetables, real foods. And that's going to be so much better. So power of protein, healthy fats to start your day. You can't go wrong. And that will help you slowly but surely to eliminate this hangriness. The hangriness often comes early on, right? We're so used to having some kind of a carbohydrate meal in the morning that within 2 or 3 hours, naturally our blood glucose dips. And it dips because of the insulin that was released with, remember guys, the insulin is there to protect us from having this really high blood sugar that could be very dangerous. You guys have heard of the conditions like diabetic ketoacidosis with the associated hyperglycemia, the really high blood sugar that can be life-threatening. Well, your body is trying to protect you from that. So it elevates insulin to get that glucose out of the bloodstream into the cell. And then commonly what happens is that glucose comes into the cell and then is stored as fat. Remember, only about 4% of all the carbs we eat get actually stored as glucose or sugar or what's called glycogen. That's the storage form of glucose. The other 96% literally goes into fat, which is not what most of us want. We're not trying to store fat. But insulin is the reason for that. And the reason insulin goes up is because we've eaten carbs. And so it's trying to protect us. It has an amazing, awesome role. And so we need insulin, but we need to activate it a little bit less because every time we activate it, increases the odds that some of that glucose is going to go straight to fat. And if all we ever use is glucose for our substrate, meaning our meals, then our body starts to really depend upon it, kind of count on it. And it's going to want to be fed every 2 to 3 hours, which is that conundrum, right? We're kind of taught often by people in the health and wellness, so we're usually nutrition kind of space. Hey, you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours to keep your metabolism going. Malarkey. You need to eat every 2 to 3 hours because you're addicted to carbohydrates. That's why you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And this, of course, is for us adult folks, right? I'm not talking about little babies who do need to eat every 2 to 3 hours. Totally different. They have an exceptionally different goal set, metabolism. Theirs is much more fast and it's growing and growing and growing at a super rapid rate. That's not us. And we don't, as adults, we don't want to be growing at that kind of rapid rate. And so we don't, for the most part, need to be eating every 2 to 3 hours. And if we feel like we have to, that may be a sign of this carbohydrate dependency. I did an entire podcast on a carbohydrate dependency because it's so dang common. And I'll list that in the show notes there, but it was about, 60 something. But take a look. Really cool episode. We talked a lot about how to ditch this most common dependency that almost 8 out of 10 of us have in this present day. But hey, guys, it is worth it to ditch the dependency because why would we want to be dependent on anything? My son told me this morning, he said, hey, Dad, I heard somebody say that sugar was the most overused drug in the world. And I looked at him, I said, you know what? I think you're absolutely right. Like, it is one of the most overused drugs in the world. Sugar is indeed, it acts like a drug. I mean, it stimulates those pleasure centers in the brain, not only for enjoyment and pleasure, but the worst part is it makes us want to crave that dopamine, the craving. In fact, the craving has been shown to be potentially even worse than the craving that drugs cause, like things like cocaine and amphetamines that are super, super addictive. Sugar, in the rat model anyway, it's been studied, is even more addictive than that. It's nutty. It's that dopamine, it's the craving, and that's where the issues arise. It's not necessarily all about the pleasure of eating sugar, because I think the person who's eating it all the time, they don't get the kind of pleasure that maybe they once had, right? You kind of get a little bit numb to it, but you have, unfortunately, the craving is ongoing, and the craving is where there's a lot of issues. And so in order to eliminate, to ditch that dependency on carbs, we got to start eating real food. And carbs are okay. I personally eat carbs. I had carbs this morning for, well, it's actually not morning, but it was breakfast that we ate at like 2:30 in the afternoon because we had like a midday church, and we didn't eat before church because, we were just kind of enjoying the morning. I slept in on Father's Day today. And anyway, I ate my breakfast at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And at the end of it, after I ate a bunch of eggs and an omelet that my wife cooked up, which was amazing, and then half of my little daughter's omelet because she couldn't finish it. After all of that, I did eat a couple handfuls. So we had strawberries, blueberries. It was fantastic. I even had a pancake that my wife made because it was tasty. It had only real ingredients. It was made out of butter and not a bad cooking oil. It was great. And so I eat carbs too, but I eat them later in the day. I eat them at the end of meals, and I don't have it make up the preponderance of my diet. I mostly focus on the power of protein and healthy fat, and sort of carbs is sort of at the end because, honestly, we can live without carbs. We actually don't need dietary carbohydrates to keep our blood sugar up. And I know it's super crazy to say, counterintuitive, because we got to keep our blood sugar up, right? But actually the body knows how to do that. The body can actually make the necessary glucose without us eating carbs. I know it sounds crazy to say, but it's the truth. We can do that. Our liver can do what's called gluconeogenesis, gluconeogenesis, the making of new sugar, gluconeogenesis, it can happen in the absence of dietary carbohydrates. This is how we can go for a day long, a 2-day long, maybe 5-day long, maybe 1 week long fast. Of course, we're drinking water and hydrating, but we can literally go through several days of fasting as humans and not die because our body knows how to keep our blood sugar up, both through gluconeogenesis as well as this amazing alternate energy source called ketones, which I'm not going to get into today, but it's a mechanism that we have had for millennia. We have this, we have the machinery, but if we eat every 2 to 3 hours, we don't actually use this machinery very often, and we kind of lose some of the ability to do so until we start changing up our diet a little bit. So number one, avoid the highly processed sugars, grains, flours, carbohydrates, anything, of course, with high fructose corn syrup. Avoid that crap like the plague. It is not something we should be eating. All those sugary, highly processed treats, whether they be in the form of a granola bar, a chip, a cracker, a cookie, processed bread. Breads are among the worst. I mean, one piece of white bread raises your blood sugar more than sugar itself. I mean, it's just nutty, right? Because that sugar in the flour has been completely pulverized to this tiny little, just nothing that resembles a complex carbohydrate in nature, right? Those are in fruits and vegetables. And when we eat this highly processed grain and flour, it just boosts our blood sugar like crazy. Our insulin goes up and then it drops later, and we get that kind of postprandial or after eating like tiredness and low energy, and even hypoglycemia occurs because of this carbohydrate dependency. So back to answering this question to this gal who is struggling to eliminate sugar. She feels like it's going to be bad because she's going to feel the hangriness, but she knows that she wants to. And so what's the best idea to do it? She knows an all or nothing is probably not the best way to start. I would absolutely agree. You want to kind of phase into this. So maybe in the beginning, just take out all the sugary snacks, right? Still snack, but just don't do the highly processed stuff. Maybe instead of reaching for a granola bar or a candy bar or just some chips or crackers or cookies or a piece of toast made out of crappy bread or whatever, how about reach for a handful of almonds or a handful of my favorite macadamia nuts or a half of an avocado or whatever. Do some kind of healthy snack, or even a whole piece of fruit or whole vegetables, like some kind of real food. So you can still snack, and you can even still snack with carbs if you want to. Use a handful of berries, for example. That's plenty of healthy carbs, right? Comes from nature, but also has fiber in it. So it's not an all or nothing thing. I certainly don't fear carbohydrates. I don't avoid them, but I don't eat, or I try not to eat. I'm at least an 80-20 guy. Maybe I'm closer to 90-10, but I try not to eat the highly processed grains and flours and sugars and carbohydrates because I know that they're not awesome for me. But even more than that, I know that I feel crappy when I do. I notice it. The next day, my ankles and knees and hands and wrists are literally achy and painful and swollen. And it's like I notice the inflammation. I talked about in a live I did this week in the Shake the Sugar Challenge. I hope you guys were a part of that. If not, look it up on Facebook. It's called the Shake the Sugar Challenge, or hashtag Shake the Sugar. It's in the group called Level Up Your Life. Go ahead and join that group, request to join it, and you can watch all those videos. I did a couple of lives in there, and one of them was about exactly that, how to shake this craving, shake the sugar. And it's not hard. It actually can be quite simple, and you don't have to do it 0 to 60. Just slowly change the type of carbs that you're eating. Eliminate the stuff that comes in a bag or in a box or with a barcode that it's processed flour, sugars, or grains, or has ingredients like high fructose corn syrup or brown rice syrup or brown rice flour syrup or whatever it is, agave syrup. All of these do the same thing. They boost up your blood sugar, correspondingly the insulin, and then you crash afterwards. But if you eat healthy, real food, a handful of nuts or a handful of even fruits, berries, strawberries especially are awesome, you're not going to get the same effect because it'll be absorbed more slowly. You won't get this rapid spike in the blood sugar. It's more of a complex carb, and you won't have the same slump afterwards. And you don't want the slump. Trust me, the slump sucks, and that's what causes the hangry. So yes, slow is better than not at all, and you got this. Just take one step at a time. First, don't even stop snacking. You can, just phase out the bad snacks, add in the good ones, and then once you're doing really good, you can kind of separate, instead of maybe 2 or 3 hours between snacks, like make it 4 hours or make it 5 hours, whatever it is, and make sure you're hydrating, drinking plenty of water. In fact, let's just talk a little bit about hydration. Somebody asked me in our Thrive community, what is the importance of water? Why do we need water? And I love this topic. Water is life. I say that as a surfer, as a human, as a just aficionado of all things activity, movement, exercise, and food. Like food is one way to get water into you, especially if you're eating fresh fruit and vegetables. There's a lot of water content in there. My favorite is just a glass of ice water. If I'm feeling a little bit more zesty, I'll throw in some lemon or lime juice in there, a couple of drops. I do have an electrolyte powder that I'll use every day or every other day. Right now in the summer, probably every day, once a day, I'll do an electrolyte powder for one of my beverages, and it doesn't have sugar in it. It doesn't have crappy stuff. It has things like calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, healthy electrolytes, plus, a tall glass of 24 or 36 ounces of water that I drink it with. So water is life. Our bodies are, depending on which part of the body, somewhere between 60 and 80% water. We are mostly water. The overwhelming majority of all of our cells is actually water. Our brains, water. Like, we have so much water in us, but as little as 1 to 2% dehydration can really just stymie or cripple or blunt our both mental, cognitive abilities, as well as our athletic performance. And those of us that have trained and have done different sports and things, that you start to feel crappy when you get dehydrated. You just don't have that energy. You're feeling kind of low. You're feeling really hot. You might have a little bit of a headache. And also, you're not mentally as sharp. One of my favorite things that Tony Robbins says in his events is get a sip of water. Keep moving, keep being active, either standing like I am at my standing desk recording this with you, or in your chair, be active and moving around and energetic, but also be sipping on whatever your beverage is. Right here, I have a green drink that I also take. And if you guys don't know what I'm drinking, my green drink or my hydration drink, please message me on Facebook or Instagram. It's Dr. Thomas Hemingway, Dr. Thomas Hemingway. I'd love to share with you what I use because I found it to be super helpful in my life. So feel free to reach out. But just getting the appropriate water in is critical. And kind of the starting point rule of thumb, I would say half of your weight to drink in ounces daily. So I'm 150 pounds. I want to do at least 75 ounces of water a day. I'm in Hawaii right now. It's hot, it's humid, it's summer. So I'm drinking more than that. I'm probably doing about 100 to 150 ounces of water a day. And water counts if it's water with a couple drops of lemon juice, if it's water mixed with a hydration drink that does not have sugar. Sugary drinks, soda, even diet soda, I know it's not sugary, but it has a bunch of other crap in there. All these things don't really count very much towards your hydration goal. Mostly, I would recommend just drink real water. And if you need a hydration supplement powder to add into it, message me. I'd be happy to share with you what I take. But keeping yourself hydrated is so critical, not only for your mental, cognitive, and physical performance, but also it's what your body needs, craves, wants, desires. In fact, one of the reasons people often have cravings and they think that they are hungry is because they are thirsty. In the brain, there's this area called the hypothalamus that sometimes gets the signals confused. When you're thirsty, when your body actually craves water, sometimes you get the signal that, I'm craving something salty, or I want to have a snack, or you feel hungry. But really, if you were to replace that hunger with just a glass full of your favorite natural water-based beverage, maybe, like I said, with a little bit of hydration in there, maybe, or with the powder in there with electrolytes, or just a drop of lemon juice or whatever. Like if you're replacing it with real water, you drink a full glass of water, you may not be hungry anymore because that signal may have actually been thirst that your hypothalamus was confusing for hunger. So I would start there. And many times during the day, I know all of us might get a little hungry at times. Just try drinking a full glass of water. There's also this cool weight loss effect. It's called the thermogenic effect of water. And this is even more pronounced if you drink ice water, like before a meal, for example. Drink 16 ounces of water before a meal, and you're a lot less likely to overeat, I should say, right? You can do like the Japanese do, which is to never eat until you're full. And you're more likely to do that if you start your meal with a glass of water. I recommend every meal, start with a glass of water, but also when you first wake up in the morning. I'm out of the practice of eating at breakfast when I first wake up. I usually am not hungry anyway. I drink a full glass of water, 16 to 24 ounces when I first wake up. And that kind of gets the system going because I'm not drinking water at night, at least for 8 hours, hopefully while I'm asleep. So I naturally might wake up a little bit dehydrated. So I reach for water, and that helps kind of jumpstart, if you will, my energy level for the day. Start it with a full glass of water. The Ayurvedics, you guys have heard of Ayurveda, that amazing sort of natural health science from the East. Guys like Deepak Chopra and others who have really kind of popularized this. They have a whole term that talks about starting your day with a full glass of water. I can't think of the term right now off the top of my head, but it's amazing. It's helpful. And so hydration is so critical. It's important for every cell of your body, literally, because we are mostly water. And even as little as 1 or 2% dehydration can have a significant physical fitness sort of performance aspect, as well as cognitive and mental and brain function decrease if we get dehydrated. So sip. I have a couple of these type of water glasses that I'm sipping on all day long. I want to get at least half of my body weight half of my body weight in pounds in ounces per day. So 150 pounds, 75 ounces is my bare minimum. That's if I'm not really doing much. If I'm outside being active, doing sports or sweating a lot, I'm easily doubling that in the summer months. So that gives you a start. Check out podcast number 56 for more on water. I'd love to share that with you. My next question actually came from the same gal who was talking about, she was concerned about diet soda. And she asked, is it good? Is it bad? If it's bad, why is it bad? So diet soda is a super interesting topic. Initially, when it was first sort of quote unquote invented, I think it was around the 1950s, roughly. I forget exactly when, but it was actually initially developed to help people with diabetes. They thought if we gave them a 0-calorie drink that was still sweet and so they would like it, this would actually help them with their diabetes. Well, guess what? Not only does it not work for that, but for people who don't have diabetes, it actually has been shown to increase their risk of diabetes. Like, it's super crazy. It's been shown to increase the risk of both type 2 diabetes, which is sort of the most common one worldwide and the one that is almost entirely preventable, as well as it has increased the risk of heart disease. This is diet soda, even though it's 0 calorie. Also, it's been linked to chronic kidney disease. So here's the thing. I have not ever found one study that shows health benefits from diet soda. There have been some that have been neutral. In other words, they didn't see any significant positive or negatives, but that's the minority. Most of them have shown that there's some negative downside. And if there's something out there that's not going to improve my health and has some potential downside, I don't care what it is, in this case it's diet soda, why would I want to subject myself to that, where the risk is much likely to be deterioration or worsening of my health than there is any benefit? I'm gonna not take that. So there was actually a really interesting article from Penn State from the medical team, and you can find this on their website. But this has been really interesting because I love their summary of all these artificial sweeteners and the diet sodas that they cause issues. And what's interesting is the first question they ask is diet soda safe for diabetics because it doesn't have sugar? And they say, think again, all right? Not only can these artificial sweeteners can actually cause a spike in blood sugar and insulin, so it can actually make you more insulin resistant, but they are really bad in the sense that they are so dang sweet. These artificial sweeteners like sucralose, aspartame, ACE-K, there's a whole bunch of them. Basically anything that sounds like a chemical, right, is the type of artificial sweetener that you should avoid. Those that are actually real, fruit or vegetable or plants, I should say, things like stevia, monk fruit, that kind of thing is going to be much less toxic. But anyway, as I mentioned already, these artificial sweeteners, especially those, like I mentioned, the chemical ones, ACE-K, sucralose, NutraSweet, aspartame, these kinds of things, can increase your risk of developing diabetes. They can actually increase your risk of having a stroke by nearly 50%. Like, what? They increase your risk of heart disease. They increase your risk of stroke. Like, what's going on here? Why would anybody want to have these issues? In fact, they've been linked to other conditions in addition to heart disease, but congestive heart failure, for example. It's amazing. There's so many issues with them. And so what is the deal here? Even though they don't have real sugar, well, all these chemical additives cause issues. They're unnatural. Right? They're chemicals. They're developed in a laboratory. They're not meant to be consumed. But what is so interesting about it is because they are so sweet. I mean, some of these are 50, 100, even 1,000 times more sweet than sugar. They mess with your brain. They mess with your cravings. And they sort of trick your brain in the sense that The brain thinks when it consumes something sweet that should be satiating or filling. And then when the body receives these 0-calorie sweeteners, it's a total disconnect. They're like, what the heck? I'm getting this signal that it's something really sweet. It should be filling me up. It should be making me satisfied and satiated, but it's not. So it makes you crave even more. It actually, this has been shown, this is one of the biggest downsides, to cause increased cravings and such increased consumption, increased eating. And they want you to have more calorie, high dense foods like the sugary, highly processed grains, flours, sugars, all the stuff that comes in a bag, a box, or with a barcode or label. The 3 B's, right, that I tell you guys about all the time to avoid. It makes you want to crave these things. It's not you, it's science. It's been designed that way. These artificial sweeteners are designed to make you want to crave more. May not have been in the very beginning when they tried to see if they would help with type 2 diabetes, but now literally they're trying to make these things so sweet, it actually confuses your body. Your body is in this total disconnect. It thinks that sugary sweet stuff should be calorically dense. It's 0 calorie, right? So it makes you want to eat even more. And so you consume and you consume and you consume. And at the same time, they can cause your metabolism to slow down because the beverages in and of themselves, right, they're 0 calorie. So your body's like, well, what the heck? If it's 0 calorie, I need to turn down my metabolism so I don't burn as much calories. So it's total double or even triple whammy, right? They make you crave more. They reduce your metabolism so you burn less. It's like at least a double whammy. And so it can be so much easier to gain weight. Diet soda is not awesome. Plus, all these artificial sweeteners are literally, they're chemicals from the lab. They're not natural. They actually are harmful also to your gut bacteria. So they increase the number, quantities, amount of the bad bacteria, the stuff that wants you to eat the crappy foods, right? You guys have heard of these in the popular press, right? They want you to eat more crap junk foods because they proliferate, they grow, right? This is the bad bacteria out there that literally wants you to eat crappy food. And then you have the good bacteria, like the Akkermansia, for example, that their colonies go down when you eat junk food. And so they can't really help you because you're eating too many highly processed foods, which favor the not so good bacteria out there, right? And so diet soda, artificial sweeteners, 0-calorie beverages that are sweetened with unnatural things, I'm not a fan. I am not a fan. What I reach for is a mineral water, a sparkling mineral water. And what we just got back from a trip to Portugal is amazing. They have so many different choices of just sparkling water, so many different minerals and flavors. And, they put a drop of lemon in it or lime. And I just love that. Sometimes I want that with dinner. I don't know why. It's some kind of weird dinner thing. I like a little carbonation. So I reach for a Pellegrino or something like that. That's 0 calorie, but no artificial stuff, no artificial sweeteners, okay? 1950s, I just looked it up, is when they first designed these artificial sweeteners and diet sodas, I should say. Diet sodas were introduced in the 1950s to try to help people with diabetes. So maybe the initial, goal was good, but it's turned into just not only a crazy billion-dollar industry, maybe trillion, I don't know, but just a crazy industry, but it's not helping. I've never seen a study show that it is healthful and good for you to drink diet soda. Like I said, some are neutral, but most will show that a lot of the negative effects. So I'm not a fan. I don't think it's helpful. And like I said, typically what happens is people actually gain more weight. And I just think it's really sad because they think that it's 0 calorie, they should lose weight. But like I said, it changes the cravings and it messes your mind up. It makes you think that you should be getting calories with something that's sweet. You're not. And so hence your body is like, it's smarter than you think. It's saying, hey, I'm not getting the calories that I need, so I better slow down my metabolism, and I better make this person crave more calories because that diet soda is not doing it. I'm not getting calories from that. So it really is a double-edged sword. It's messing you up. Not awesome. If you guys are interested in even more, maybe I'll do an entire podcast on just that, on the artificial sweeteners. And I think I did already, actually, on the artificial sweeteners, not specifically on diet soda, but I did way early in the beginning, probably in the first 20 or 30 episodes, something on artificial sweeteners. So I'll put that in the show notes for you. Check that one out as well. But it is not good for you. Diet soda is not good. That's the bottom line. And so, yes, you are right. Diet soda is not good for you. The next question was about protein bars. And this one kind of made me laugh because just this week, we have a friend that was trying to tell us about their clean, quote, I'm using air quotes here if you're watching on YouTube, their clean protein bar. And what we thought was so interesting is we said, well, just show us your protein bar. Let me, and they didn't have one on them. They told us what it was and we looked it up online and like, maybe this was on purpose, but we literally could not find the ingredients on this company's website. It was really annoying. And finally, just doing the classic Google search, we found the ingredients and indeed it was the right bar, it had the label and everything, but the ingredients were not clean. They were anything but clean, They had the seed oils, they had sunflower oil, safflower oil, soybean oil. They had the bad oils, and then they were full of sugar. Maybe it didn't say highly processed granulated sugar or it didn't say high fructose corn syrup, but a couple of them did say corn syrup. Some of them said agave syrup. Some of them said brown rice syrup. Like all of these are not awesome, okay? But every one of them that at least I was able to find and get the actual ingredients list, and this is a certain company, I'm not going to tell you their name because I'm not here to badmouth anybody, but I'm going to tell you have to read the label. Just because somebody tells you it's a, quote, clean, and this person was somebody that we know and we love, and it was really annoying because they were so misguided. And they thought because this was generally considered a health-oriented company, that has thousands of products, they've been around for a long time, they just assumed that what their friend told them that was selling these, that they were clean. They were quote unquote clean protein bars. In fact, somebody had a friend that had just been eating them 3 meals a day for a couple of months and lost a bunch of weight. And they were like, well, how could this be bad? I'm losing weight. The weight loss part may not be bad, but you can't live off this crap. And why would you want to? Why would you want to live off a 3 meal a day protein bar for the rest of your life? That's not joy. That's not thriving. That's not life. We were made to enjoy not only food, but this life. If we're depriving ourselves by just eating 3 protein bars a day and nothing else, besides the fact that we are likely not going to get the nutrients we need, but this is no kind of way to live. This is no kind of way to live. So that's not what I'm recommending, a protein bar for every meal and nothing else. And if you do like to put in a protein bar into your snack possibility list, please, please, please read the ingredients. Don't trust somebody just because they say it's a clean energy bar or a clean protein bar. Well, who knows what the heck their definition of clean is, right? Maybe they didn't rub it in the dirt before they gave it to you, but you got to read the ingredients. If it has a corn syrup in there, even if it's not high fructose corn syrup, if it has agave syrup, if it has brown rice syrup, if it has preponderance of carbs, especially if it has any of the seed oils, and I don't care which one. Soybean oil is probably the most common, but these had, I believe, sunflower oil. That is never awesome for you, okay? So you have to read the ingredients. And this whole issue of limiting yourself, this deprivation that a lot of people do when they start dieting, it doesn't work in the end. In fact, I've shared with this a fact with you before on previous podcasts, but all caloric restriction has been shown to do if practiced as a diet in the long term is that, number one, obviously people just can't stick with it. Maybe they can stick with it for 1 month, 2 months, or maybe 3 months like this one individual. I think it was 3 months and lost 28 pounds. There's no way they're going to be sticking to this same 3 protein bar a day for 3 years. Nor would I want them to. It's crazy. But it's not sustainable for so many reasons, right? It's deprivation. It's not fun. The die in the word dieting. Who wants to diet? I don't recommend people diet. I just recommend they change what they eat. They seek, number one, quality first, real, whole, natural food from the earth. That's number one, quality foods, right? And then we start talking about timing of foods. And, you guys have heard me speak of this. I have a whole course on this, a natural weight loss course you can find in my community. It's on my link in my Instagram as well as on my website, thomashemingway.com. So I'm not going to get into that right now, but why would you want to eat just 3 protein bars a day for ad nauseum forever? Who knows? This guy, I'm sure he's going to run out of steam, but there's not going to be the nutrition that you need in those 3 bars, even if they are clean. It's hard to even find a quote unquote clean bar out there. There's so much crap in those things, but you have to read the label. You have to read the label. Anyway, enough of my soapbox on protein bars. You just got to read the label. End of story. Make sure it doesn't have seed oils. Make sure it doesn't have high fructose corn syrup or processed sugars, agave syrup, brown rice syrup. It's all crappy, sugary stuff, right? That's not the stuff you want. You want stuff that just has real healthy ingredients, like just cacao, natural cacao. Maybe they're going to put some MCT oil if they need an oil of some kind. That's coconut oil. You got to try to go by what I call the 5-ingredient rule. Make sure you understand what each of those ingredients are. Anyway, the last one I was going to get to today, well, I guess I have 2 others I wanted to get to. One is somebody says, I'm struggling with making the time to cook my meals. I'm so tired at the end of the day, I just don't want to cook. So this is one I think we've all experienced. It's so common. I've had this myself, end of the long day. You know what I do? Like, I'm kind of embarrassed about it, but, well, maybe not. But if it's just been a long day and I don't want to cook, like, I'll either just skip the meal altogether, or I'll just have something super simple that takes no effort, like an avocado or 2 avocados. Or if I'm really hungry, maybe I'll have 3 avocados, because that will fill me up if I feel like I need to have something, and it's not bad for me. And if I skip a meal, so what? Your body knows how to deal with that, right? For millennia, we skipped meals, and sometimes several days of meals, because we just couldn't find food, or we couldn't get anything on our hunt, or whatever that was. Like, our bodies can do this. But the answer, that's not the answer to this question that I'm going to share with you, is that we need to plan. So maybe take 1 day a week where you hit the grocery store, right? You're going to shop on the perimeter, but before you go, you're going to make a list, and you're going to do sort of a menu for the week. And at first, I'll admit, I've struggled with this. It's daunting to sit down and make yourself write that dang list. But if you write the list, you set up your menu for the week, you'll know what you're shopping for. And then what I've done at certain times in my life, not always, but is beyond just the targeted shopping and the menu, is you can even cook up a couple of meals, like on a weekend, maybe you have a day off from work or whatever that day might be for you, is you'll cook up a couple of meals, and what you're not going to use immediately, maybe the next day, just freeze it. And then you can take it out of the freezer and use it as you need to. This works awesome for things like a nice hearty stew that you've made, or even a lasagna. We're going to make lasagna tonight, and I guarantee you, if we don't eat it all, we're going to find out a way to eat that in the next couple of days. So it's a nice thing to be able to have at the ready. Just freeze the leftovers. Then you can get that out as you need to eat when you get home from work and you're tired and you don't want to make anything, right? You'll have that ready to go. So you got to plan it out. You got to make a menu. You got to go to the grocery store, plan ahead. And here's the clincher, right? Is don't succumb to the ultimate ease, which is just stop by the drive-thru on the way home. It's so hard to get good, high-quality food at the drive-thru. You gotta plan better than that. I know it's not that easy, and sometimes if that's what you got to do what you got to do, but just don't make that a regular habit, because the junk that's out there through drive-thrus is like the majority of it. It's hard to find good stuff in that scenario. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. Let me know if you have a favorite restaurant that actually does have really good fast food type of stuff. I'll be happy to learn about it. I don't know of very many out there. The closest one I found for quote unquote fast food is something like Chipotle, because they actually do source their ingredients pretty well. They actually use real ingredients. They're pretty good. They're not perfect. But they're pretty good. For example, the chips I believe that they have there, I believe they have canola oil. I don't usually get the chips, but I'm just saying, they're not perfect, but they're pretty good. So got to plan ahead. You got to make a menu, and you can actually pre-cook some of your stuff so you'll have it at the ready, or just pre-dice, for example, all the stuff that you want to put in a salad, and then just take that stuff to work. And when you get to work, when it's lunchtime or whatever, then you can mix it up. That way it doesn't get janky from sitting around too long, or that sort of thing. You can also take with you some extra virgin olive oil, and then separately a lemon or some lemon juice, and make your dressing or balsamic or whatever. So you can make it fresh right there at work, but you take it with you. Take it with you is key, because then you know what's in there. And you can kind of pre-dice up the week's worth, the veggies. My boy actually does this all the time. He loves to make omelets and things like that in the morning, these kind of power protein bowls. And he'll dice up like all the vegetables like on Sunday or something, and he'll just have them in Ziplocs like ready to go. And then when he's hungry in the morning and he doesn't want to take the time to really cook, he can literally just dump the stuff out of the Ziploc bag and he's ready to go. So it takes a little planning, but it's doable. Try a little bit at a time, and I promise you, it will be helpful. Last question. I don't want to leave this one out, because I actually love this question. It says, how do I get over that hump where, the mindset issue, the accountability issue? This is the question. How to keep it going when you're struggling to see the results. So here's the thing. Most of us have results that we may want to change. Maybe we've gained 10 or 20 pounds or whatever. Did those results happen overnight? No, of course not. That happened over days, weeks, months, sometimes even years. So first of all, let's just come to the reality that it's not likely that we're going to change those results in a couple of days, or maybe even in a couple of weeks. I tell people when they start a new plan, whatever that plan is, usually need to give themselves minimum 90 days, 90 days to see significant improvements. You'll probably see some much sooner than that, but don't write it off from not having any noticeable changes in the first week or even in the first month. Like, give yourself at least 90 days. That's kind of the cycle. A lot of our cells regenerate at about that time frame, about 90 days. And so we need to give ourselves some time. Remember, we didn't get to where we are overnight, nor are we going to get out of wherever we are that we want to get out of overnight. It's going to take some time. So I love BJ Fogg, Fogg, his book called Tiny Habits. So if you haven't gotten that already, I don't even know the guy personally, but I think he's a cool dude and he wrote a cool book. And I've actually gone to his website and taken his free course on tiny habits, which I would recommend if you need something like this in your life, because not only is it free, but it's cool. They put like a little coach in there with you. You have daily contact. You can choose some tiny goals. Like, I'm talking tiny. He makes the analogy, how do you start flossing your teeth? Because, it's arduous, right? The first time you floss takes 30 minutes. The next time, maybe 20. The next time, 10. Then you get really good at it. You can do it in 5 minutes. But he says, just start with one tooth at a time. Like the first day, just floss one tooth. And then you got to win, right? You got to win under your belt. Celebrate that win. So you got to start small. It's not 0 to 60. It's not 0 to 100. It's small, tiny steps, but repeated over time can be super, super powerful. So read his book, Tiny Habits. You can even go to his website, sign up for his free course. If you need more accountability, we have the Thrive community specifically for you because we support one another. And we're all on this path. We're all on the journey. We're trying to do better, but it's a little bit at a time. The tiny steps, right? You didn't learn to walk in one day. You fell over a lot of times. I've seen 6 little kids in my personal family learn to walk, and there hasn't been one of them that did it the first time. Not one. They fall down, they stand, they fall down, they stand, then maybe they take 1 step, and then they maybe take 2, and they keep falling down. And it's a process. It's days, it's weeks. First they just pull themselves up to the furniture, the chair or something, and they just kind of stand there, and then they sit back down. And the same it is with your health. It is not fast necessarily, but nor did our wherever we're at today come so fast. It came over time, months, years, a lot of time. And so we need to be patient. We need to practice some self-love. Like, I'm not going to get into a whole Tony Robbins approach here, whatever, but a lot of it is our view, how we are viewing this thing. It's important to have kindness and self-love and patience, just to be patient with ourselves. This isn't going to change overnight, but the good news is it can change. You guys have this power. It's within you. Everything you need is right there. It's right within you. And so I love that somebody asked that question, because I struggle with that sometimes too. I want, just like today, we can click on our phones. We can get something kind of immediately. You can buy my course immediately. You can buy this thing on Amazon immediately. We have so much instant gratification that sometimes we lose patience when things are taking a little bit of time. So don't fall victim to that. Know how powerful each one of you are. You've got this. You can do this. We want you to thrive and not simply just survive in your life. And this can be done. This is what I want for you. If you need a little extra help with this, join my Thrive community. I can't wait to see you there. I love you guys. Thanks so much for listening. Please share this with anybody that might have any of these needs or concerns or questions, because I really feel like these are applicable to almost all of us. So thank you to the Thrive community for submitting these questions. I hope this has been valuable to not only you, but to many, many others. And until next time, a big, giant aloha. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss out on any future episode. And I'd love to hear your comments and feedback. If there's any topic you'd love to hear about, you're dying to know, burning questions, please comment below and let me know what future topics are of interest to you.